leave my comfort zone and pick up a romance book. Hello everybody, happy Frog Friday. My name is Carly and this is Hugo. And today we're going to be doing a giant book haul for you. I don't usually buy a ton of books, but I had a lot of gift card money to use up. So all of these books I only paid $4 something. Honestly, I think it was $4.20 that I actually paid with real money and the rest of it was just gift cards. So really, this is like a free book haul for me. You know, I didn't spend any real money for this. Okay, I am gonna sit Hugo off to the bed. So he's gonna say bye for now because he is just so exhausted. He's had a rough day of sleeping all throughout this morning, so he needs to take a nap from doing all of that. He's gonna watch over my books on the bed while I go through them. And he's locked in my room right now, so he's not happy with me. He also just got another haircut recently, so he's also not happy with me about that. So I collected these books from 3 different places, from thriftbooks.com, from Barnes & Noble's in the store, and from a local used bookstore near me. I'm gonna start off with the books that I physically got into my local used bookstore. I will start off with the Stephen King books. I currently have 12 Stephen King books, and I think I have 10 more to add during this haul, so I've basically doubled my King collection so far. Some of them I've read and some of them I haven't yet, so let's go through them. The Drawing of the Three and The Wastelands by Stephen King, and these are books 2 and 3 of the Dark Tower series, and I got these because I already have The Gunslinger, which I still haven't read. I'm not going to go over the plots of these because I don't even know them. They're the 2nd and 3rd book in a series, so I'm not trying to spoil it for myself to read what they're about, but I know once I read The Gunslinger, I'm probably going to want to pick up these next, and I'm also trying to get my dad to read The Dark Tower, so I know this will make him more likely to read those as well by having these next ones available for him right away. Continuing on with The Dark Tower, I had to get The Stand, which I just really liked this cover of it. I think this is the original one. I don't know which of these is like first editions, whatever. I didn't look into that too hard, but I just like this cover, and I know this is one you need to read before The Dark Tower, or you should read before The Dark Tower. Although I wasn't paying attention when I got this in the store, and I was literally just looking at the cover, so I didn't pay attention that this is the original version and not the full uncut version. So this one's only 817 pages, and I told myself I was gonna read the full thing if I wanted to read The Stand, and I wasn't gonna wimp out and just do the cut version. The camera right now is actually sitting on top of my copy of the uncut version, and I'm currently reading that. I'm about 800 pages in now at this point, so I'm almost done. I will let you know what I think about it after the fact, but I'm pretty impressed with myself that I've already read that much of it. And if you don't know what The Stand is about at this point, where have you been? It's a post-apocalyptic book. It's pretty much like his most famous, or one of his most famous books. And a disease wipes out 99.4% of the population or something like that. And it's basically a story about good versus evil. It's very religion heavy, with Mother Abigail, a 105-year-old black woman, being the figurehead of the good side, and then Randall Flagg being the figurehead of the bad side, or the dark side. And then again with The Dark Tower, I'm not sure at what point throughout the series I need to have read this, but the Eyes of the Dragon I just thought this was like a really good quality cover. There's like no rips or tears or anything in it, so decided to pick that one up. It's his fantasy book, and I know it has the characters from The Dark Tower. I think it has Randall Flagg in it, and that's why you're supposed to read it. I think it's like before the 4th or 5th one or something, so this is another one I might be able to convince my dad to read since it's somewhat shorter and he likes fantasy. And now here's the first one for my haul that I have read, and it is Under the Dome. I had to pick this one up. First of all, it's pretty good condition, but second of all, it is one of my favorite King books, favorite books in general ever. Love this book. It's something like 1,000 pages. This one's 1,054 pages. If you don't know, one day a dome randomly drops down over this small town called Chester Mill, something like that. It's more a story of following the people inside and how quickly they devolve as a society and start falling apart and turning against each other, and how power affects people differently and what people will do to get power. So there is supernatural elements to this, of how this dome came to be and why it's there, but the main focus of it really is the evil that comes out of us when we are put into these horrible situations. It's much more realistic horror. Next up, I found myself a copy of Night Shift, which is Stephen King's first short story collection, and I have already read this one. It was one of my first books that I read by him, but I just really liked this cover of it, so I decided to pick it up. It's a little bit beat up, but I still think it looks pretty cool. There's way too many stories to explain in it, but if you haven't read it, this is one of his most liked short story collections, so I would give it a shot if you're new to King. Then I picked up Christine, which again, I really like this cover, and the only thing I really know about this is haunted car or haunted motorcycle. I think it's a car. I know it's also like a famous movie that people really like, but I haven't seen the movie yet, and I have yet to read this one as well. Then again, I like the cover of this one. I picked up The Dark Half. Haven't read this one yet, but I really like the two birds coming together to like make a face. I believe this is something like Stephen King's worst nightmare, basically. I think it's about a writer using a pen name, and then his pen name author comes to life and starts coming after him or something like that. So it's basically like if Richard Bachman came to life and was coming after Stephen King. Next one is The Tommyknockers, which I have still yet to read, and I honestly know nothing about it. I've never actually read the description of it, and I don't really want to. I kind of want to go into this one blind. I know it has aliens in it, and I always mix this one up with Dreamcatcher. So one of these two, I think it's this one, has, I've heard, shit weasels in it, whatever the hell that means. I could be wrong. Maybe that one's in Dreamcatcher. They kind of mesh together in my mind as one giant book. I couldn't really tell you much about this one. I know a lot of people hate it, and it has something to do with aliens and it's supernatural. The last King book that I got from there, I've also already read, and it came in this really nice protective cover sleeve that I've never really seen before, and it is The Green Mile, and it is in like perfect condition. It's not my favorite cover or anything, but I didn't already own a copy, and I thought it was pretty cool that it came with the case. And The Green Mile is a great book, great movie. If you haven't read or watched them yet, highly recommend. It follows a black man that's on death row, and he has these magical powers, which again, that's kind of one of those tropes that are so that King puts in his stories. He has like the magical black person trope in it, but he's a great character. John Coffey is his name, and he has these magical powers, and he's a really sweet guy even though he's on death row, and you're just following his life in the prison system, basically. It's a very sad story. Okay, I got 4 more books from there that were not Stephen King related. This one I just kind of got as like a gag gift for my dad, and it's called The Worst Case Scenario Survival Handbook Golf. So it's full of all these little things, like each page is a different stuff. How to stop a runaway cart, retrieve a club from a tree, survive a bird attack, how to avoid lightning, just like stuff like that. How to cure a golf addiction. My dad and I golf very occasionally, like whenever we go to the beach every couple of years. This particular beach, we'll go golfing one time, but that's pretty much all that our golfing amounts to, but I thought it was a fun book. I actually have this same type of thing over here. I have 2 copies of The Worst Case Scenario Survival Handbook. I meant to give one of those to my brother and keep one for myself, but now I've got this. I guess it's like a series. Now, this one I had to pick up solely for the cover, and you will understand. It is called Lives of the Monster Dogs by Kristen Backus. And this one, I really don't know what it was about. Like, I saw the cover and I was like, yeah, I have to have that, and it was in the horror section, so I'll read the little inside cover for you so we can both figure out what it's about. Here is a first novel like no other, a spellbinding tale that both creates its own fully realized world perspective and provides an incisive look at the ways that humans and animals resemble each other. A group of elegant monster dogs in top hats, tails, and bustle skirts become instant celebrities when they come to New York in 2008. Refugees from a town whose residents had been utterly isolated for 100 years, the dogs retain the 19th century Germanic culture of the humans who created them. They are wealthy and glamorous and seem to lead charmed lives. They find adjusting to the modern world difficult, and when a young woman, Cleopatra, befriends them, she discovers that a strange, incurable illness threatens them all with extinction. When the dogs construct their dream home, a fantastic castle on the Lower East Side, and barricade themselves inside, Cleo finds herself one of the few human witnesses to a mad, lavish party that may prove to be the final act in the drama of the lives of the monster dogs. I don't know how I feel about that summary, but either way, I just had to have this copy solely because of this. I love dogs. The next book up, I actually had to go back into the store to get. It was one of the first books I saw when I went into the store. They have like a new book section, like the books that have just come in recently to the store, up at the front, and those ones tend to be more expensive. So when I first went into the store, I saw this one and I was like, you know what, it's in the more expensive section. Let me just think about it, and if I really want it, I'll come back at the end. It is Galapagos by Kurt Vonnegut. It's got the blue-footed boobies on the front, and then on the back it has a little marine iguana and Darwin's ship. And when I came back at the end, I decided, you know what, I did have to have this. And so I went over to the shelf and grabbed it, but I actually wasn't paying enough attention, and I grabbed another book that was about baseball that I've never heard of before, but it had a blue cover. So I just like grabbed it, seeing the blue cover, thinking it was this one. And when I went out to the car, I had to come back in and be like, oh, sorry, I actually meant to grab this one. Anyway, I can switch it out. They're really nice. Switched out for me. It was fine. This one also, I'm not really sure. It has like a little signed thing on the inside of the cover from Vonnegut. It's hard to see, but it's like shiny down there at the bottom. It's like imprinted into it. I'm trying to figure out if this is like the first edition signed thing or not. I think it is, and if that's the case, it might be worth quite a bit of money. I found this online going for anywhere from like $3 to $340, so I could make a pretty penny on this if it does happen to be that. But either way, I just wanted it for myself because I studied abroad and lived on the Galapagos Islands for 3 months, so it has a special place in my heart. So honestly, I have no idea what this story is about. The inside cover doesn't even tell you what it's about. So I can't tell you much more than I really just wanted to have it for my own collection to remember my time abroad. The last book that I got in that store, as I was leaving the horror section, I decided to just look around at the other stuff that wasn't King, you know, just to see what was there. And Kelsi, I hope you're watching this because I bought this book solely for you. I didn't really know anything about it. I just saw it and I was like, okay, I have to buy this one. And it is Robert McCammon's Boy's Life. A few pages did kind of make their way out of the book between going from the store back to the house, so it's a little bit beat up. I really like the cover of it, and I know this is one of Kelsi Slime and Saucer's channel. Her favorite books, that's her favorite author, so I've been meaning to read it. I haven't read anything by McCammon. I also have been wanting to read Swan Song a lot, so planning on reading both of those at some point. But pretty much the only thing I know about this one is that it's a coming of age story, and I think there's maybe some sort of murder that takes place in it, like murder mystery, but it's mainly focusing around the coming of age of the main character and I believe his friends. So yeah, that purchase was for you, Kelsi. And while I was getting all of those in the horror section, my friend was over in the general fiction section picking up some Nicholas Sparks books. So, you know, the people in my real life, they do read books, but not exactly the same genre as me. But then we decided to go over to Barnes & Noble after leaving the used bookstore. And usually I just look around Barnes & Noble, but again, I had some gift cards to use up. These are only 2 new books that I got. This is another book I got because of you, Kelsi, and it is Touch the Night by Max Booth III. First of all, that's an amazing cover. It just screams Stranger Things as well. I didn't really know what it was about when I got it, but I had read We Need to Do Something by Max Booth III recently, and I really liked it. I gave that one 5 stars. So I've been wanting to read more by him, and this particular book is Kelsi from Slime and Slasher. This is her July pick for her book club, so I will be reading this one, I guess, next month in July, hopefully. I'm going to read the back of it for you for this particular one so we can both find out what it's about. Stranger Things and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre unite to form a blood-soaked matrimony of violence and corruption. Something sinister is hiding in the small town of Percy, Indiana, and 12-year-old Joshua Washington and Alonzo Jones are about to find themselves up close and personal with it. After a harmless night of petty property damage leads to the unthinkable, the red and blue lights of a cop car are the last thing these boys want to see, especially a cop car driven by something not quite human. Enter Mary Washington and Otessa Jones. Their sons have been best friends for years, and now Josh and Alonzo have been abducted in the dead of night. Worst of all, the local sheriff refuses to believe they're missing, leaving it up to Mary and Otessa to take the law into their own hands before a family of ungodly lunatics can complete a ritual decades in the making. Together, they will embark on a surreal and violent journey into a land of corrupt law enforcement, small town secrets, gravitational oddities, and ancient black magic. That sounds really cool to me. Can't wait to read this one next month. And then I was only gonna pick up that one because, again, I don't like buying new books. I try to stick to used books or not buying books at all. But I saw Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. First of all, though, why do we do this still? Why do we cut off the cover? Just extend it that extra inch. I don't need to know that it's a New York Times and USA Today bestseller. I know, that's why I'm picking up the book, okay? Just give me the full cover. That's really a big pet peeve of mine. I know it's a lot of other people's too. But this is the T.J. Klune that I haven't read yet. I read The House in the Cerulean Sea and In the Lives of Puppets. I'm just realizing now his book titles are very long, but I really like both of those, and I've been meaning to read this one. I'm gonna read the back for you just to do a little summary of it. Welcome to Sharon's Crossing. The tea is hot, the scones are fresh, and the dead are just passing through. When a reaper comes to collect Wallace from his own funeral, Wallace begins to suspect he might be dead. And when Hugo, the owner of a peculiar tea shop, promises to help him cross over, Wallace decides he's definitely dead. But even in the death, he's not ready to abandon the life he barely lived. So when Wallace is given 1 week to cross over, he sets about living a lifetime in 7 days. It's basically just like a grief story, and I think there's some gay romance storyline in it because it's T.J. Klune, so there always is. But I have really been meaning to read this because obviously main character's name is Hugo, so I gotta read it, and I figured I gotta own it too. But this is really the real reason why I got it. Look at the edges. They put like little trees on the edges. I really like that. That honestly sold me over, just the blue pages and the tree. That's really all it takes. And then lastly are the books that I got from thriftbooks.com, and I bought them all at the same time, but they came in 3 separate packages because they were coming in from different locations, I guess, around the country. And they came in one at a time, and I waited so long, like I made myself wait until I got all of them to open them all together at once. I did film a section opening it, but I'm probably not going to include it because I was just too excited to actually talk about the books. It was literally just me opening them up and showing you them, but I will just show you them again, talk about them now. So the first books that I got were, this is kind of dumb of me, but I got 2 more Chuck Palahniuk, the Fight Club author. I got 2 more of his books. I have Rant right there that I got solely because of the cover. I still haven't read Rant or any of his books, but I just have a feeling that his weird, gross horror is really going to work for me, and I think he's going to be a new favorite author, so I decided to pick these 2 up. First one is Choke, which this one came in pretty good condition, honestly. So this one says, Victor Mancini, a medical school dropout, is the anti-hero for deranged times. Needing to pay elderly care for his mother, Victor has devised an ingenious scam. He pretends to choke on pieces of food while dining in upscale restaurants. He then allows himself to be saved by fellow patrons, who, feeling responsible for Victor's life, go on to send checks to support him. When he's not pulling this stunt, Victor cruises sexual addiction recovery workshops for action, visits his addled mom, and spends his days working at a colonial theme park. Sounds a little wild to me. I'm ready to read that one. And then the other one of his that I got, this one I see everywhere, like all over. I was gonna say TikTok, but really I just see them once they're onto Instagram Reels and they're super old. And I see them also on lists of like scariest books and stuff, but it is Haunted. This one's a little more beat up. It's got like that annoying sticky tape thing on the front of it and has someone's name on the inside. So Maya Avelar. If you see this, I have your book. The back is kind of messed up as well. So this one was a little worse off condition. Haunted is a novel made up of 23 horrifying, hilarious, and stomach-churning stories. They're told by people who have answered an ad for a writer's retreat and unwittingly joined a survivor-like scenario where the host withholds heat, power, and food. As the storytellers grow more desperate, their tales become more extreme, and they ruthlessly plot to make themselves the hero of the reality show that will surely be made from their plight. I think my expectations might be a little too high for that, so I think I need to lower it down a bit. And the next 2 are the reason I actually started this whole haul, so really, it's my parents' fault because I was getting a book for Father's Day and a book for my mom's birthday. For my dad, I got Joe Abercrombie's Before They're Hanged, which is the 2nd book in the First Law trilogy. Obviously, he is liking it so far because he's already about that far into it, so he's almost ready to do for the 3rd book, but I got him to read it because he's a fantasy girly, you know, but I'm not gonna read the summary or anything because I haven't even read the first one. And then for my mom, I got A Spectral Hue by Craig Lawrence Gidney, which this one one I had never heard before, but when I was at the Gaithersburg Book Festival during the Owen King and Jinwoo Chong section of the event, when they were being interviewed, the interviewer was actually Craig Lawrence Kidney, and kind of at the end of it they all pitched their books one last time, and he was asked to pitch his book, and my mom was like, wow, I wish they had this one because I really want to read that. So I decided to pick this one up for her. I'm going to read you the back of this one because it's probably one you've never heard of before. I'd never heard of it before. I think he's a bit of a lesser known author. For generations, the marsh surrounded town of Shimmer, Maryland. Again, we're from Maryland. We live in Maryland, so that was kind of an interesting thing to see as well. You don't see that often of books set here. For generations, the marsh surrounded town of Shimmer, Maryland has played host to a loose movement of African American artists, all working in different media, but all utilizing the same haunting color. Landscape paintings, Trompe l'oeil quilts, decorated dolls, mixed media assemblages, and more, all featuring the same peculiar hue, a shifting pigment somewhere between purple and pink, the color of the salt marsh orchid, a rare and indigenous flower. Graduate student Xavier Wentworth has been drawn to Shimmer, hoping to study the work of artists like quilter Hazel Whitby and landscaper painter Shadrach Grayson in detail, having experienced something akin to an epiphany when viewing a Hazel Whitby tapestry as a child. Xavier will find that others too have been drawn to Shimmer, called by something more than art, something in the marsh itself, a mysterious spectral hue. A novel of art, obsession, and the ghosts that haunt us all. Love to support local authors. Next up, I had to get Meg by Steve Alton. If you see her glow, it's too late. A novel of deep terror. So I like the cover of this one, just basic, but I like the glow of it. I think the book came before the movie, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's a movie novelized into a book. It's just another one of those Jaws-like stories, deep sea research type of thing with a giant megalodon attacking in the summer. But I love sharks and shark stories. As you can see, I'll show you this little shark section of my desk that I have. So here I've got the shark section of my desk. I'll go through it real quick. Not a shark, just a dino. Also not a shark, just my Rubik's Cubes and Rubik's Cube frog painting. Then we've got the Meg book, Killer of the Seas book, a little tiny sharks book, a giant like coffee table picture book of sharks back there, my shark jaw. And then in all these jars and bags are all the shark teeth that I have found or collected over the years. This is actually a turtle shell fossil. I'm not going to show you the wine bottles up close because they have my last name on them, but they're pretty cool. And then in this jar I keep all the really big and cool teeth that I've found so that I don't have to empty out the wine bottles every time I want to look at one of them. These are some of the tiniest teeth that I've found, so I keep them in tape so I don't lose them. This is the biggest megalodon tooth I've ever found. I have a couple other ones that I've found, but they're just little tiny shards. This is the biggest one so far. I'm still trying to get that nice whole one though. Here's a pretty cool one. This is from a species called the cow shark. They have multiple little rows on one single tooth. These ones are still in a bag and a container because I don't have another wine bottle yet to put them in. I've filled up those two already. But yeah, here's just some of the giant ones that I have in there. Here's a couple of pretty cool ones. They're actually still inside of the rock formation. Here's actually a fossilized alligator tooth. But yeah, those are some of the coolest, biggest ones I have that I like to keep separated so that I can just look at them. But I love shark books. I don't know when I'll get to this one. I wasn't a huge fan of the actual Jaws book, even though I liked the movie. The book wasn't that great, so I wonder how this one will compare to the movie. But yeah, there was like a deal on this one. I saw it and I was like, why not? Why not? I love shark things. Then I got Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. This one I've been meaning to read for literally forever. It's probably still gonna be a bit, but now at least I have a copy myself. I know I'm gonna love this one. Like, I would be shocked if this was anything but 5 stars. I know it's a bunch of different storylines and timelines coming together, which is my type of thing. I haven't seen the movie of this, but I know it gets a lot of hate and people like to shit on it a lot, so I don't know if I will see the movie, but I definitely want to read the book. Also, my friend read it, and she's been trying to get me to read this one for forever. She kept trying to loan it to me, but I was like, I am moving soon. Like, I don't know when the next time you're gonna get this back is, so I made her keep it, but I promised I would read it at some point, so I now own a copy. Getting closer to getting it off of my TBR. Next up, we've got an old library book. It seems to be from King County Library System. This one, it was a cover by. Didn't really read the summary. It's called The Cabinet by Eun-Soo Kim, translated by Sean Lynn Halbert. First of all, I love this like little light pink cover. Oh, it's so bright in here right now. There we go. I love this light pink cover, and it's got this cool chameleon, and it also has this little cat peeking out the top of the title, which I really like. It doesn't have the best ratings on Goodreads I looked after, character, but hopefully I can still enjoy it somehow. I'll read the little summary of it because I haven't seen it around that much, so I don't know if you guys have. Cabinet 13 looks exactly like any normal filing cabinet, except this cabinet is filled with files on the symptomers, people whose weird abilities and bizarre experiences might just mark the emergence of a new species. But to Mr. Kong, the harried office worker who spends his days looking after the cabinet, the symptomers are just a headache. From the woman whose doppelganger broke up with her boyfriend to the man with a ginkgo tree growing from his fingertip. And then there's that guy who won't stop calling, asking to be turned into a cat. A richly funny and fantastical novel about the strangeness at the heart of even the most ordinary lives from one of South Korea's most acclaimed novelists. So it sounds really good to me. I don't see why it has such bad ratings. I guess maybe the stories don't live up to the hype or something. And the next book, I decided to leave my comfort zone and pick up a romance book, and that is Geek Love by Katherine Dunn. Can't wait to finally leave the horror genre and delve into some romance because, you know, I just love that so much. Okay, I'm just kidding. This has absolutely nothing to do with romance, although the title is very misleading because if I had seen this just in a regular bookstore or a library, I would never pick it up solely because it has the word love in it. Like, that just screams romance, obviously. But this is quite a horror novel. It's a very disturbing book. I found it on like a disturbing horror book list and I felt like I had to have it. Geek Love is the story of the Benuskis, a carny family whose mater and paterfamilias set out with the help of amphetamine, arsenic, and radioisotopes to breed their own exhibit of human oddities. There's Arturo the Aqua Boy, who has flippers for limbs and a megalomaniacal ambition worthy of Genghis Khan. Iffy and Ellie, the lysome Siamese twins, albino hunchback Ollie, and the outwardly normal Chick, whose mysterious gifts make him the family's most precious and dangerous asset. As the Benuskis take their act across the backwaters of the U.S., inspiring fanatical devotion and murderous revulsion as its members conduct their own Machiavellian version of sibling rivalry. Geek Love throws its sulphurous light on our notions of the freakish and the normal, the beautiful and the ugly, the holy and the obscene. Family values will never be the same. This book haul somehow is all about Kelsi, which I didn't mean for it to be, but recently on one of her lives, she had talked about this being a book that she really liked. I saw that after I had ordered this one, so I was kind of surprised and happy to see that. I think she said it was a little more literary than it seems to be, but it's like a very messed up book. I know the triggers have like incest and stuff. It says it's a National Book Award finalist. That's kind of surprising for the themes that are inside of it. And then the last book I've had on my Storygraph TBR for a really long time, but I have never seen anyone talk about it, and it seems like super intriguing, so I'm really excited to read it. It's called Five Minds by Guy Morpus. Super sick cover. This is one of the only hardcover books that I got, so I'm gonna read you the little summary inside because it seems super interesting. Sharing a body can be murder. The Earth's spiraling population has finally been controlled. Lifespans are limited to 80 years except for those who can make an extreme choice to become a commune. 5 minds sharing one body, each living for 4 hours at a time, but with a combined lifespan of nearly 150 years. Alex, Kate, Mike, Sierra, and Ben have already spent 25 years together in what was once Mike's body, their frequent personality clashes leading to endless bickering, countless arguments, and getting themselves stranded on a Russian Arctic freighter. Wanting to buy upgrades for their next host body, they decide to travel to a death park where games are played and time can be gambled like money. But things go very wrong when Kate accepts a dangerous offer and one of them disappears. Someone is trying to kill off members of the commune, but why? Is one of them responsible, or is an outsider playing a deadly game? It's hard enough to catch a murderer. It's almost impossible when you might be sharing a body with them. This brilliant murder mystery blends classic crime with speculative fiction in a stunning debut. So, I mean, especially for a debut, I didn't realize that. Maybe that's why I've never heard of it. But that sounds like amazing to me. It sounds like everything I would want from a book, combining the speculative and the horror thriller genre together. It's a super unique premise. I've never heard of a murder mystery of multiple characters sharing the same body. How does that work? I wonder what the perspectives are like. I assume it's obviously going to be multiple POV, which I like as well. And that is all of the many books that I got in this giant book haul. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Let me me know down below if I should prioritize any of these. For today's frog fact, it's not really a fact, it's more of some little insider knowledge for you. A lot of times when you see that a new species of something has been discovered, right? It really hasn't been discovered just recently. It takes a lot of work to get a new species put out into the world, essentially. So just because you found something that you think is new, it doesn't mean that immediately it's going to be published. I know, just speaking from experience from my own professor in herpetology at UF, he was giving us a tour of the museum collection because he works at the museum at the school, and he was giving us a tour of the collections, basically, where they keep everything in all the like jars preserved and stuff. And he was like, oh yeah, that shelf over there is all of the species that I need to work on describing that have been sitting on that shelf for about 30, 40, 50 years. So a lot of times people have found these things and they know or they think that they're new species, but they just don't have everything written up in the correct way. They don't have the DNA evidence, just the full analysis of everything to have it actually go out and be published into the scientific world to get described as a new species. There's tons of rules for how you have to name a species, very like specific rules on how to name them based on their relationship to others and things like that. So it's not something that can just be, oh, I'm going outside right now, wow, that's a new species, everybody in the world, it's a new species. No, it's usually someone collects it, it sits in a jar in a room somewhere for 50, 100 years, and then someone comes along and decides to do the dirty work and take the time to write in new papers to get them published as new species, because these people, a lot of the time, they're doing it for free. They're not getting paid to discover these new species. Those jars that are sitting in the closet, someone is spending their free time doing this, writing these papers up. They're not getting paid for each new species that they discovered or anything. It's really just for them. It's really just for science sake. So whenever you're seeing these new articles talking about new species discovered, it's because a scientific paper has just been published about these things being discovered, but really they can be decades old, centuries old findings that are just now coming to light. That's all I got for today. Thanks again for watching. I hope you all have a great day. Goodbye.